In June of 1967, the Middle East witnessed a whirlwind of military conflict, diplomacy, and geopolitics that would reshape the region's landscape for decades to come. Known as the Six-Day War, this brief but intense conflict between Israel and the neighboring Arab states of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria dramatically altered borders, political dynamics, and national psyches. Though it lasted less than a week, its impact has reverberated ever since, forming the backdrop for countless debates, peace talks, and confrontations. Background: the road to war. To understand the Six-Day War, one must first examine the complex and volatile context that led to it. The roots of tension stretched back decades, particularly to the establishment of Israel in 1948, which led to the First Arab-Israeli War. In the years following the 1949 armistice lines, commonly known as the Green Line, left Israel in control of more territory than originally allotted by the United Nations Partition Plan, and hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs were displaced, creating a long-standing refugee crisis. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, border skirmishes, retaliatory raids, and diplomatic hostilities kept the region in a state of high tension. Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser had become the symbol of Arab nationalism, frequently calling for the liberation of Palestine and the destruction of the Israeli state. Israel, in turn, feared encirclement by hostile nations and saw every threat as potentially existential. By early 1967, tensions escalated further. Syria and Israel clashed regularly over the Golan Heights, while Palestinian guerrilla attacks, often launched from Jordan and Lebanon, triggered Israeli retaliations. On May 14, 1967, Egypt began massing troops in the Sinai Peninsula and demanded the withdrawal of the United Nations Emergency Force, UNF, which had been stationed there since the 1956 Suez Crisis. The UN complied. Most alarmingly for Israel, on May 22nd, Nasser announced the closure of the Straits of Tiran to Israeli shipping, a move Israel had long warned would be a casus belli, or cause for war. The Lightning War, June 5-10, 1967. Despite international efforts to mediate the crisis, war erupted on the morning of June 5, 1967, when Israel launched a preemptive strike against Egypt's Air Force. In a matter of hours, the Israeli Air Force had destroyed the bulk of the Egyptian, Syrian, and Jordanian air forces while they were still on the ground. A staggering display of tactical precision and surprise. With air superiority secured, Israel turned its attention to ground operations. In the Sinai Peninsula, Israeli armored divisions advanced rapidly, outmaneuvering Egyptian forces and capturing large swaths of territory. Within a few days, Israel had reached the Suez Canal. Meanwhile, Jordan, despite Israeli warnings to stay out of the conflict, entered the war. In response, Israeli forces launched a counter-offensive that led to the capture of East Jerusalem and the West Bank, territories that had been under Jordanian control since 1948. In the north, Israel fought a fierce campaign against Syrian forces entrenched in the Golan Heights. On June 9-10, after heavy bombardment and difficult terrain fighting, Israeli troops seized control of the heights, ending Syrian shelling of Israeli villages below. By June 10th, a ceasefire had taken hold, and the war was over. In just 6 days, Israel had tripled its territory, taking the Sinai Peninsula, Gaza Strip, West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. Aftermath, victory, and complexity. For Israel, the war was an astounding military success and a source of national pride. The Old City of Jerusalem, including the Western Wall, was now under Israeli control for the first time since 1948, creating powerful emotional and religious resonance. But with victory came immense complications. Israel now found itself in control of over 1 million Palestinians in the West Bank. And Gaza, populations that had not been integrated into Israeli society and that resented Israeli occupation. The war also left deep wounds in the Arab world: national humiliation, loss of territory, and hundreds of thousands more displaced people. The conflict hardened attitudes on all sides. Arab states refused to recognize Israel, formalized at the Khartoum Conference in August 1967 with the famous 3 no's. No peace with Israel, no recognition of Israel, no negotiations with it. Meanwhile, Israel began to establish settlements in some of the occupied territories, setting the stage for decades of dispute. The Palestinian national movement also gained momentum after the war, with groups like the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, emerging as significant actors in the conflict. International repercussions. The Six-Day War dramatically altered geopolitical alignments in the Cold War context. The United States increasingly aligned itself with Israel, while the Soviet Union deepened its support for Arab states. This proxy dynamic intensified as the broader Arab-Israeli conflict continued. The war also triggered UN Security Council Resolution 242, which called for the withdrawal of Israeli forces from territories occupied in the conflict and the recognition of every state's right to live in peace within secure and recognized boundaries. Though seemingly a balanced framework, its ambiguous wording has led to ongoing disputes over interpretation and implementation. Legacy and lasting impact. The Six-Day War did not solve any of the underlying issues that led to the conflict. In many ways, it amplified them. The occupation of Palestinian territories became the most contentious and enduring issue in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The sense of grievance and humiliation in the Arab world contributed to the rise of political Islam and radical movements. For Israel, while the territorial gains provided a sense of security, they also introduced a host of moral, legal, and demographic challenges. The debate over what to do with the occupied territories, whether to annex, withdraw, or negotiate, remains unresolved to this day. In Palestinian society, the war marked a shift from reliance on Arab states to a growing sense of self-determination. It also laid the groundwork for the first Intifada, uprising, 2 decades later. Conclusion. The Six-Day War was a turning point, a military triumph for Israel, a catastrophe for its Arab neighbors, and a pivotal chapter in one of the world's most enduring and emotionally charged conflicts. While the battlefields fell silent after 6 days, the consequences of the war continue to shape the Middle East to this day. Understanding this war isn't just about studying maps and timelines. It's about grasping the psychological, historical, and political scars it left behind, and how it continues to influence the lives of millions.